Incoming!
So, we got to play the first couple of hours of Marvel's Spider-Man recently, and it is looking good. Developer Insomniac's take on the superhero will have you not only swinging from skyscrapers and taking down a host of iconic enemies, but seeing Marvel's New York from multiple new perspectives, aside from Spidey's. Here are 8 things we cannot wait to do once we get our hands on it.
Writing your memoirs? Don't forget the hyphen between spider and man.
It's gotta be hard making a Spider-Man game knowing that so much of your success comes down to the swinging mechanic and how well it measures up to Spider-Man 2, the PlayStation 2 game that's still regarded as the only game to really nail what it felt like to zip through New York as everyone's favourite webhead. For Spider-Man on PS4, Insomniac knows it has big shoes to fill. The developer says that swinging is by far the feature it gets asked about most, and as a result, traversal has always been a top priority throughout production, with changes and tweaks being made right up until the last minute. The main focus was making sure that swinging was simple to do in its most basic form, but there were layers of mastery for players to get to grips with over time to make sure that getting from A to B as Spidey was as stylish as possible. A simple press of R2 is all it takes to get going, but precise timing in order to jump, zip, and add extra flourishes here and there will make things look and feel even more thrilling. The main thing is, apart from feeling great to pull off, it looks completely fluid and natural to Spider-Man, who should be as comfortable diving through the air as he is with 2 feet planted firmly on the ground. That said, you do spend more time than you'd think in this game doing just that. Insomniac says that from day one it was important to the developer to make a game that was as much about Peter Parker as it was about Spider-Man. And so, players will juggle both aspects of Peter's life as he swings around the city fighting bad guys, and as he tries to make ends meet in his day job as a scientist. Playing as Peter Parker is a definite change of tone from playing as Spidey, but it's good to have those quieter moments to get to know the character and what he's going through at a crucial time in his life. Peter is 23. He's been Spider-Man for 8 years. He knows what he's capable of in a red and blue suit, but he's still learning about the difference he can make in his regular clothes. Early in the game, you'll control Peter as he wears a white coat and goes about solving various puzzles in the lab. And these range from completing simple circuit boards to matching up litmus paper readings to further his scientific knowledge. And this isn't just for the purpose of fleshing out his story either. Completing these extra tasks will count towards unlocking extra suits, gadgets, modifications, and upgrades to help Spider-Man in the field.
So much and asking for nothing. I just wish there were more people like you in the world. Those masks, who are these guys?
Interestingly though, available playable characters don't end there. You'll also be taking on the role of Mary Jane Watson, who in this telling of Spider-Man is an investigative reporter for the Daily Bugle. The sequence we played as MJ was very early on and mostly involved sneaking into an art auction house after hours. But there was also an interesting puzzle segment that played to her strengths as a journalist. You're essentially locked in a room with an exhibit, and you know that something's not quite right with it. So, you have to scan the room, read through a bunch of accompanying clues, and try to come up with a solution that'll unlock the secrets contained within. It got us wondering how MJ's story and playable sections will evolve. Clearly, Spider-Man is the brawn and Peter possesses the scientific know-how, but MJ has cunning and street smarts that'll give her a unique perspective and ensure the story is all the richer for having multiple viewpoints for players to zip between.
Whoa, careful.
Do your thing.
Yes!
But let's be honest, it's a superhero game. We do want to fight at least a little bit. It's hard to mention the combat of Marvel's Spider-Man without mentioning the fantastically fluid fighting mechanics of Rocksteady's Batman Arkham games. But once you get beyond the basics, press one button to strike and another button to counter when your spider senses are tingling, there's a very unique flow to the combat here. It's far more aerial for one. Holding attack will knock enemies into the air where you can follow up with multiple aerial hits or web them to send them swinging. It's far more acrobatic too, with Spidey leaping and dodging over and under enemies much faster than bats could ever manage. Once you add webbing, suit powers, gadgets and environmental attacks like wall leaps on top of all that, you have a system that is basic at first glance, but that opens up to all kinds of experimentation the more you play around with it. Which is good, because there are loads of bad people on the loose in NYC, and Yuri Watanabe of the NYPD will keep you in the loop of various crimes in progress that you can choose to swing in and save or ignore at your leisure. There's so much to do in the city though that you won't have time to stop every crime. I just did a rhyme. Exploring all of the 8 districts of New York is a full-time job in itself, even when you're gifted with the ultimate mode of transportation. We played the very beginning of the game, and though the entire map is unlocked right after you complete the very first mission, we were told there'll be plenty more things to do by the time players have a poke around the Big Apple's streets for themselves. That said, there were various tasks we could undertake from the get-go, including tracking down Peter's old backpacks for the blueprints to make new gadgets, and taking photos of well-known New York City landmarks. This being Marvel's New York, there were real-life landmarks like the Empire State, Madison Square Garden, and Grand Central Terminal, but there were also places like Avengers Tower, Fogwell's Gym, Josie's Bar, and Alias Investigations. Enough to make comic book lovers feel all warm and tingly inside. You best believe we'll be taking spider selfies with every single one of them. Given that there's been so many Spider-Man games, movies, and obviously comic books, developer Insomniac was keen to find a way to put its own unique stamp on this version of the superhero. One way it's done this is with suit powers, drawing upon the studio's past experiences of crafting gadgetry with Ratchet & Clank, Resistance, and Sunset Overdrive. Spider-Man will be able to craft dozens of new suits in this game, and each of these suits comes with its own unique ability, whether that's superior healing powers, advanced combat moves, or something a little more exotic. But the fun doesn't end there. You can also obtain mods to enhance a suit's properties, and up to 3 can be equipped for stackable bonus effects. This upgrading is done through tokens earned by completing other tasks in the game, and there are different types of tokens to earn. You earn base tokens by clearing out strongholds held by villains throughout the city, and you earn crime tokens by listening into police radio and stopping various crimes in progress. Different crimes will begin appearing as the situation worsens in New York as the story develops, and this will apparently affect how New York will look too. Presumably, the worse the crime wave gets, the darker and more dangerous New York will look. But Spider-Man is nothing without some villains to oppose him, so exactly who will we be facing off against? Well, enemies confirmed so far include the two-faced Mr. Negative, whose dual personas present a threat to both Spider-Man and Peter Parker. There's also Wilson Fisk, aka Kingpin, who Spider-Man fights early on in the game only for Fisk to tell him he's the only thing actually keeping the criminals of New York in line. There's also the enigmatic Silver Sable, a mercenary who's been called in by New York's new mayor to keep peace on the streets as Spider-Man clashes with big bads. Oh, and that new mayor? It's Norman Osborn, whose alter ego pretty much anyone who's ever even heard of Spider-Man knows, right? Green Goblin? Yeah, of course you knew that. Then there's Shocker, who players got to fight during the most recent E3 demo. And then at SDCC, Electro only went and broke out the entirety of the Raft maximum security prison, which included Rhino, Scorpion, and Vulture. That gameplay reveal ended with these guys and Mr. Negative ganging up to take out Spider-Man once and for all, only to have a mysterious sixth figure, someone Spider-Man clearly knows, show up at the very end. How sinister.
Wait, you?
It's not all doom and gloom though.
You guys alright?
This is a Spider-Man that's been in the doing whatever a spider can business for 8 years, and he's made some friends and allies along the way. As well as on-again, off-again girlfriend MJ, Peter will be getting help from a young Miles Morales, a 15-year-old Spider-Man fanboy who grew up in New York watching Peter keep the city safe. Given that Miles Morales becomes Spider-Man himself in comic book versions of the superhero, will this game end with a passing on of the proverbial torch? Also, we mentioned Yuri Watanabe, captain of the NYPD. She's an ally of Spider-Man's who's come to appreciate the unique help he provides. Another thing worth mentioning about Yuri is that she's also known in the comic books as Wraith, a skilled vigilante who proves a useful ally to Spider-Man. Wraith also has particular story ties to Mr. Negative, one of the main villains in this game. Another sometimes ally that has turned up in stories relating to Mr. Negative is Black Cat, who has already been confirmed as appearing in the first piece of DLC for this game. So could she make a brief appearance in the main campaign as well? And of course, we can't talk about Peter Parker's allies without mentioning Aunt May. The nonsense that woman has to put up with, honestly. What we're trying to say, though, is that it seems Marvel's Spider-Man is introducing a bigger and more diverse range of Spider-Friends than we've seen in a long time. It'll be exciting to see what the game does with them.
Thank you, May, for everything. Here's for many more years of service.
But your foolishness ends now.
You do know I can still see you, right?
Are you looking forward to some web slinging? Do you have any theories on how Insomniac's story will play out, or is there anything you're still a little bit unsure about? Let us know in the comments and check out our other Spider-Man video, as I chatted to the game's creative director and got loads of development details. Don't forget to subscribe to Eurogamer to stay up to date for more Spider-Man news, but until then, thanks for watching. Bye!
Ugh.